morning, guys, and welcome to this new episode of From Shakespeare to Netflix, titled Limitless or Doomed, where genius comes at a price. Super interesting today because we are diving into something humanity has always craved. That is knowledge. But what do you mean with knowledge? Actually, today we are talking about knowledge as understanding. Because as we know, if we understand something, we can control it. And if we can control it, we can dominate it. And as a consequence, we can become powerful. And let's face it, as we have already seen in other episodes, actually, humans are obsessed with power. So let's get into details. Today, we are looking at two works that at first sight couldn't be more different. The 2011 movie Limitless, directed by Neil Berger and starring Bradley Cooper, and Christopher Marlowe's 1592 play, The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus. Two very different worlds, sure, but united by the same theme, going beyond human limits. Quite easy to figure it out, actually. We can already see this from the film's title, Limitless, that is, of course, without limits. But what kind of limits are we talking about? As I mentioned earlier, mainly the limits of human knowledge and abilities, so the limits that concern the human mind. As always, let's start with a quick refresh of the two works, and as usual, spoiler alert, so huge spoilers ahead. Pay attention. The film Limitless, released in 2011, tells the story of Eddie Mora, a failed writer who discovers a mysterious pill called NZT48 that maximizes his brain's potential. From outcast, he becomes a genius. I was blind, but now I see, he says. So, for example, he finishes his book in a few days, amasses wealth, and climbs the ladder of finance before and politics after. But actually, the drug also brings dangerous side effects and dependency, attracting deadly enemies, for example. So, Eddie risks his life. But at the end, the main character must find a way to control the substance and survive the cost of his newfound power. Marlowe's Dr. Faustus tells of a scholar who, dissatisfied with the limits of traditional knowledge, makes a pact with Lucifer. In fact, in exchange for his soul, he gains 24 years of unlimited power and infinite knowledge. Faustus uses his powers for tricks and shallow pleasures, wasting his potential actually. So when his time is up, demons come to drag him to hell. So today, guys, I want to start right from the heart of the two stories, the protagonist. On one side, we have Hedy Mora, the protagonist of Limitless. On the other, Dr. Faustus, Marlowe's great tragic figure. Two very different characters, but both belonging to the category of overreacher. But what does that mean? Who is an overreacher? We have actually already explained this word before in the previous podcast, for example, with the figure of Dr. Frankenstein or again with Dr. Jekyll. So the overreacher is someone who tries to reach beyond human limitations. And both Dr. Faustus and Eddie Mora do this, even if in very different ways. But let's start with Eddie Mora, the survivor, we could call him. As we said, Eddie is a failed writer. We see him at the beginning of the film depressed, broke, without family, without future, scruffy. He even describes himself through the voiceover. You see that guy? That was me not so long ago. What kind of guy without a drug or alcohol problem looks this way? Only a writer. So basically, he's a loser who is living a condition of an existential void. His only goal is to survive and to, of course, improve his life. So when he's offered NZT, he takes it without hesitation. He has nothing to lose. Why not? And honestly, who can blame him? And let's clarify something. The one who gives him the pill the first time, his ex brother in law, isn't honest with him. He says it's new medication, tested, safe. This is an exclusive product that's coming on stream next year. They've had clinical trials and is FDA approved. And it is a lie. But Eddie believes it, or maybe chooses to, and that's where his journey begins. So he begins from zero and he arrives to absolute genius. The pill lets the brain work at 100% capacity. So Eddie suddenly has incredible abilities and he takes advantage of them, of course. He writes a book in days, dominates Wall Street, moves into finance and then politics. His journey is pragmatic, strategic, capitalist. Nice words, yeah, but what do they mean? It's easy. He wants money. That's it. Because money means power, and power means success, which brings more money, and on it goes. So it is the reflection of the American dream, not a metaphysical dream. And with this pill, Eddie pulls it off. He's ahead of everyone. It puts me 50 moves ahead you, he says. On the other hand, we have Dr. Faustus, the rebellious intellectual who ends up ruined. His starting point is the opposite. He's not failure at all. He is a learned man, a scholar. He knows medicine, law, theology. In fact, he's a doctor and not a physician, but a man of knowledge. Yet traditional knowledge is no longer enough. He is dissatisfied. He doesn't want to survive or he doesn't want wealth. He wants more knowledge, but also forbidden knowledge, almost divine one. So he seeks dark magic, the supernatural, essentially to approach the status of God. So his push is metaphysical because he wants to discover the effective truths of life, and Promethean. In fact, like Prometheus stole fire from the gods, challenging them, so Faustus acts in a rebellious way, facing the limit of humanity. In short, Faustus is driven by unstoppable intellectual pride. So, two very different men, but both gain power, but they use it differently. Eddie uses the NZT practically: money, career, political power. He's the modern application of genius in a capitalist society. Faustus, on the other hand, wastes his gift: illusions, games, petty desires. He builds nothing. He's undone by his own weakness. And this brings us to the heart of the parallel, the pact with the devil. In Limitless, there's no literal devil actually with horns and tails. The deal is implicit. Eddie gets the pill from his ex brother in law, who acts more like a tempter, I would say, almost like the serpent in Eden offering Eve the apple. But the real devil here is not human, but is the society itself. The logic of the market, the addition to a drug that gives everything while threatening to destroy you at the same time. In Dr. Faustus, the pact is explicit and solemn. He signs in blood with Lucifer. Had I as many souls as there be stars, I'd give them all for Mephistopheles. So he's able, so he wants to give his soul to gain knowledge. But what does offering the soul mean? Eternal damnation, that is, infinite suffering. And so it will be in the end. And talking about the end, even the endings highlight their contrast. Eddie Mora wins against the drug. Even if has to face many difficulties in the first period, he learns to manage it, to live with its risks, and that's the film on top. It's rich, powerful, extremely fascinating, even heading into politics. An optimistic, almost unrealistic ending, I would say, because we all know that addiction never ends happily, guys. Dr. Faustus, meanwhile, faces his tragic doom. After 24 years, the demons come. In his final monologue, one of the masterpieces of the Elizabethan drama, he despairs, repents, begs God for mercy. But it is useless because it is too late, of course, too easy in this way. And as the clock strikes 12, demons drag him to eternal hell. He also tries to give up his knowledge by saying, I'll burn my books, one of the most memorable quotes of the drama, but this will not help. So, in the end, we have two opposite destinies. Eddie is the anti Faustus, the neoliberal hero who bends the rules to his advantage. Faustus is the tragic hero destroyed by his own pride. In short, one man breaks limits to survive and succeed, the other out of intellectual pride. One wins, the other loses. Eddie and Faustus shows us one thing. The urge to go beyond our limits is as old as humanity. Only the tools change. Yesterday, a pact with the devil, today, a miraculous pill. But the real question is, if NZT landed in your hands, what would you do? Would you take it to become a super genius or say, no, thank, I will stay within my limits but at peace? And are we even sure that all this power would truly make us happy, or would it only lead to ruin, like Faustus? In the end, guys, the ultimate question is this: is it better to have everything at once, risking to burn out, or live longer but within our human limits? What's your answer? Let me know in the comments or drop me a message. I'd love to hear where you stand. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and follow the podcast so you won't miss our next journeys between books, films, and TV series. Because even if we stay within our limits, a little more knowledge never hurts.